standing in the rain with his head hung low. Couldn't get a ticket, it was a sold-out show. Heard the roar of the crowd, he could picture the scene. Put his ear to the wall, then like a distant scream, he heard one guitar. Heavy downpour, thought he passed his own shadow by the backstage door, like a trip through the past. For that day in the rain, and that one guitar made his whole life change. Now he needs to keep it rocking, he just can't stop. Gotta keep on rocking, that boy has got to stay on top.
One shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment. Did you capture capture it, just let it slip.
Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter. He's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant. He knows when he goes back to this mobile home. That's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go capture this moment and hope it don't. You better lose yourself in the music. The moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the music. The moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better. The soul's escaping through this hole that is gaping. This world is mine for the taking. Make me king as we move toward a new world order. A normal life is boring, but superstardom's close to postmortem. It only grows harder, homie grows hotter. He blows, it's all over. These is all on him. Coast to coast shows, he's known as the Globetrotter. Lonely roads, God only knows he's grown farther from home. He's no father. He goes home and barely knows his own daughter. But hold your nose, cause here goes the cold water. These fools don't want him no more. He's cold product. They moved on to the next mo who flows. He knows dove and sold nada. And so the soap opera is told. It unfolds. I suppose it's old partner, but the beat goes on. You better lose yourself in the music. The moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the music. The moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better. No more games. I'ma change what you call rage. Tear this and roof off like Cdog's cage. I was playing in the beginning, the mood all changed. I've been chewed up and spit out and booed off stage, but I kept rhyming and stepped right in the next cipher. Best believe somebody's paying the Pied Piper. All the pain inside amplified by the fact that I can't get by with my 9 to 5, and I can't provide the right type of life for my family. Cause man, these food stamps don't buy diapers, and there's no movie, there's no Mackay Pfeiffer. This is my life, and these times are so hard, and it's getting even harder trying to feed and water my seed. Plus, see the thought I caught up between being a father and a prima donna. Baby mama drama screaming on her, too much for me to wanna stand
just under the surface. Don't know what you're expecting of me, but under the pressure of walking in your shoes,
caught in the undertow, just caught in the undertow.
every step that I take is another mistake to you.
Caught in the undertow, just caught in the undertow.
I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. Become so tired, so much more aware. I'm becoming this. All I want to do is be more like me and be less like you. I've become so Can't you see that you're smothering me, holding too tightly, afraid
It has truly been an honor
control, 'cause everything
to know each and every one of you by name. And the privilege that I have is that I know you by name. I know your heart. I know what makes you cry. I know what makes you happy. And that is an incredible responsibility. And it is a privilege to serve. It is. I thank God every day for the opportunity to get in my car and drive down to the Georgia Institute of Technology. Not because of brick and mortar, but because of flesh and blood. And I want you to know something. The Georgia Tech football team is about flesh and blood. It's about a heartbeat that beats strong. It's about a passion that is unyielding. And I want you to know today is your hour. It is your time. It is your moment. Don't take it. Don't do what you need to try to do. The words of my little school coach here. Alright? You can't fight no more. You can't fight no more. You're gonna run down and bleed a lot. You're gonna get up, fight some more. Hope you said we can repeat after me what I said. We're gonna fight. You can't fight no more. You can't fight no more. Alright now. Bleed a lot. Gonna get up. Fight some more.
All right. Good afternoon, or good evening, rather, all. Welcome to the Georgia Tech live show. We have a stellar all-star cast lined up for you guys tonight. I've got my boy Cdogg in here with me. Cdogg, how are you?
What up, bud?
I've got my man Benjamin London. What's going on, Ben?
Hey guys.
Hey,
How are
And
y'all?
we're doing well, man. And not forgotten, great friend of the show, my man, Bryce Coon. How are you, sir?
Yeah.
what's up?
What's up, everybody? What's up? How y'all doing?
Good. See,
Doing great, man.
now, Bryce, we are live right now since we have to tell you that sometimes.
Last time we tried to do that, that was I didn't know we were live, and that was a fun time.
We'll do it live.
Yeah.
Do it live. I love that. One of the all-time clips.
Awesome. Well, so we're the day after the spring game. I'm just gonna open it up, guys. Like, what do y'all think?
So real quick, I actually have never formally met Benjamin London.
Oh yeah.
How are you,
So-
man?
I'm great, man. I'm Cdogg. I have a YouTube channel too, like WreckTalk.
Everyone knows who you are. So.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well.
Your
Really?
reputation precedes yourself. How about
Oh,
that?
you think so? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
okay. Well, I
That's
just
right.
want to say it's good to meet you and get to
Hey.
be on the show.
Yeah, your reputation does. We were on our way up by the frats to the game, and this guy was like, Cdogg, what's up? I can't believe you're a real person. Like, I guess he thought Cdogg was CGI or something, and he had no clue who I was, and it hurt my ego deeply.
Hey, we had to. Well, I went ahead and had to let him know that he needed to subscribe to WreckTalk too.
He weren't interested,
go.
man. He was like,
Were
I
you
need
one of
to
the ones
see
that walked up with Brent Key and woke up everybody in the frat houses? Is that what that was?
it." That was us, yes.
Yeah. We had a great tailgate before the game. There was a great turnout, and we really enjoyed seeing a lot of people there. Is there anybody in the comment section that was there? I know CJ was there, so we finally got to meet him in person.
That's right.
And, yeah, it was a good time. We had set up on the 5th Street Bridge and grilled out some burgers, and we Patience Beach came by, and we had several people from the comment section come by.
That tailgate was lit. This guy came up to me too, speaking of this, and said, "I could have sworn you were a little dude, like 5'7". I'm like, "Nah, man, tall guy."
Yes, so it was exciting to get to meet the people that we talked to in the comment section and stuff. That was a good time. So we'll definitely have to keep doing that in the future. That turned out really well. Getting a little bit of a Georgia Tech community going. You know what I mean?
Getting this thing.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just, for introductions, roll around with initial thoughts. Cdogg, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I haven't actually had the chance today to go back and watch the game from the TV broadcast perspective. I know that you had said that you were able to.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you have to go through great pains to find the thing on the ESPN app, but yeah.
During the game, we were sitting behind the end zone, and it was hard to kind of tell a lot of what was going on, who was getting the ball, who was in, who was playing, and everything like that. So we were having trouble doing that. I did get to go back and watch. I watched the first half, and some things that stood out. Malik Rutherford stole the show at receiver. So I have confidence that our receiving room. We kind of already knew that going into the game, though. I mean, everybody we brought in from receiver, it wasn't a surprise to me that our receiver room was looking good. So I'm pretty confident in that we're going to be able to replace McCollum and survive since Leo Blackburn is going to be out for this year too, and of course Pyron and Haynes King. Haynes King played freaking awesome. I mean, he was throwing dimes. He had, a ton of passing yards, and he was great. They were both, Pyron and Haynes King they both looked mobile. They both were accurate, good decision making for the most part. And I'm feeling good about our quarterback situation going into the year. I think whoever winds up getting the start is going to be good. And that's something that we just haven't seen at Georgia Tech in so long. Yeah. So it's really, really cool that we have a decent, competition there. And yeah, so those are the kind of players that stood out to me. And yeah, what do y'all think?
Bryce, what did you think?
Yeah, I got the chance to rewatch it. I got to watch the last half of it yesterday, and then rewatch kind of the whole thing today. And one, offensive creativity. Now, that was just something I don't think that we've seen in a long time. Just being able to dial things up. Now, yeah, the defense very vanilla, and I think Brent Key came out and said in the post-game press conference, just kind of was, a base set, and you're not going to see a lot defensively in spring games. Like, let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. Like, that's not going to happen. You're not going to see guys, hitting with a little thump. You're not going to see those things. So I'll get to kind of what I thought of the defense, but offensively, just, the play calling, the willingness to spread the field and take shots. I mean, I think one thing that hurt Georgia Tech so much, obviously the injuries at the quarterback position, which were just ridiculous last year at times, but the inability to, I would say, just have plays of 15 yards plus at times and to be able to dial things up like that. So, if Buster Faulkner can continue to evolve that, like Cdogg said with a lot of the receivers, I'm throwing another one there, DJ Moore. Wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, what he was able to do, I know he was banged up, nicked up a little bit last season, different times. As this kid gets bigger, as he gets stronger, he's going to be, I think he could have that Nate McConnell effect. He could have Kyrie McGowan, the kid that transferred from Northwestern a couple years ago. and what I think a lot of people after his first year wanted in Amari and Brown. Maybe a little bit bigger than that in that sense. I mean, this is a guy that can really do some dynamic things out of the slot. So really liked where the offense was heading. Cdogg hit on the quarterbacks. I mean, look, it's a true quarterback competition. I know I made a video about it. Cdogg made a video about it, and I'm sure WreckTalk did as well. It's a real one. It's a real one on campus. I think the world of Zach Pyron. I love his heart, his determination. I've said it, made my case. I don't think that the passion that he has, though, should override if Haynes King is better for the job. And we'll see kind of what happens. Not saying I don't like Zach Pyron, what he did, how he was able to kind of come in last year and really, rally around that offense. But I liked it. And then defensively, just a couple names. We're going to have to see what the cornerback position looks like with a little bit of an exodus through graduation and then also the portal. But, opposite of Spider Sims over there, I mean, Amari Harvey is a guy that I thought, looked really good. I remember interviewing him, talking with him and his mom when he made the decision, which is now a year ago, to come from Auburn. And he's a highly touted kid, needed some growing to do both, he even admitted mentally and physically on the field. But I liked what I saw to him. I'm excited to see what a full season, healthy season of Kenyatta Watson second looks like, because that kid's got the NFL size to be a cornerback. I mean, he's 6'3", 190. That's a guy that can play the position. So defensively, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what they can do, especially the linebacker position. I think that's something we're going to see continuing going forward.
Wasn't Kenyatta Watson? He got burned on a big play, didn't he?
He did. He did. Yeah, he did. He's a guy that's going to have to work on. He's got the size. I think it's what I saw to Harvey was like the how fluid he was. That's something that when you're a bigger corner, you have to be able. It's harder to move. So it'll be interesting to see. But like you said, what we're all talking about here is really good competition and a team that's getting deeper. And like we've talked about, it feels like every single year they're getting deeper and they're getting closer to really having a roster that's full, to me, top to bottom, full scholarship allotment of Power 5 guys.
Yeah. Ben, what was your impressions from the game?
I think y'all pretty much have talked about the biggest things I've seen. Obviously, Haynes King and Zach Pyron, probably the biggest two storylines that you'll hear all throughout, not just the summer, but just leading into the fall next year. Who's going to win that battle? And I think, going into the spring game, I don't think anybody was going to be like, oh, we're going to get a quarterback one after the spring game. Now, after watching them both play in the spring game, it's definite that you're not going to see a quarterback one name before we get to Louisville in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. There's just no way. And I think it's going to go all the way. And I love what Bryce said. I love the loyalty that Zach Pyron has to the program, and everybody rallies around him, especially of a guy that loves Georgia Tech. But it's just, he said it perfectly. If Haynes King is perfect for the job, then he's the guy that's going to get the start against Louisville game one. And I think the thing that kind of stood out to me was the dude had to win the quarterback battle at Texas A&M, a very hard SEC school, twice. Yeah. It wasn't like he won it once and then he kept it. No, he got injured, had to win it back, and he won it back after he got injured and finished out the year for Texas A&M. I think that was a big key for me to just go out there and see, okay, he was trying to get things going in that first drive and then that second drive and that third drive. And after that, he just looked better and better and better as the game went on. And Zach Pyron had a really good game too. So I'm not overshadowing his play at all. But those two guys are going to be really, really big to watch out for. I think one of the things that really stood out to me defensive-wise was Zeke Biggers. The way he moves from sideline to sideline now is absolutely insane. You're not going to see the tackle. I think he had like 2 tackles on the game. But overall, the way he moves sideline to sideline now, he's gotten a lot more athletic in this past year from the fall up to this point. I think that was one of the biggest things I saw. And then the one thing that I think a lot of people didn't catch was after Gavin Stewart missed the field goal earlier in that game, he never went out for another PAT, another field goal again. Oh. So what does that look like for him? Oh. So I think that's a big question mark on special teams too, is that he never went back into the game. So what happened to him? Is he injured? Did he go down? That question was not asked in the post-game conference either. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happened to Gavin Stewart and if he's going to be able to, kind of pick himself back up if he was just benched because he missed that field goal.
Man, surely he wouldn't be benched after one missed field goal in the spring game. He was
I don't think he would.
He was
Right.
near automatic last year.
And the thing is, guys, they got Aiden Burr, who was
Yeah.
highly touted,
Mhm.
coming out of Texas in that last recruiting cycle, tore his ACL last year. So, I mean, Benjamin, you mentioned it right there. If he does go down to injury or if there's something nicked up, maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe he pulled something. We don't know what it was out there. But if it's one of those things, I mean, once again, when you have a competition with a kicker, and not one because the guy's playing bad, that just means it's a good thing to talk about. You have guys, multiple guys. I heard this quote earlier today, and I wanted to, mention. I was going to mention it in my show, but I'm going to mention right here today too. I don't think any of this is a controversy, quarterback controversy. I think it's a competition because when you have multiple guys that have an opportunity to win the job, and probably right now at this point deserving of winning a job, that is a good problem to have in a long time since we've seen that in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, Benjamin, because there was no rush on the special teams, and he missed it bad left. So, I mean, maybe there is an injury with him that caused it. I don't know. That would stink. My impressions were, I mean, I focus on the quarterbacks. I thought Haynes looked really good. That dime he threw, the first one, he was throwing on the run. And Haynes, he's really good, really, really good throwing off the run. And he threw across his body on that, too. Looked really good. Now, the thing is, Haynes played a lot more than Zach did. But
Yeah, he played on both sides.
Yeah, they switched him around. Oh, and that's another thing I want to clear, because me and Cdogg weren't super clear on it. It seemed like they tried to divide the talent evenly between Swarm and Team Wreckham, which won with the best name. Team Wreckham won. And but Zach, I mean, I thought Haynes looked slightly better, but I have no idea who will start. I mean, you can't really judge a quarterback based off of 3-call defense. I mean, I think they basically had three or four calls. I really liked what you said with Malik Rutherford. I mean, Malik Rutherford played crazy good. The Boyd kid played good. DJ Moore. I mean, I'll tell you the one thing in wide receiver, and I don't know what you guys think. The Leary kid, he had some bobbled balls, and it seemed like maybe some things going on. Like, I can kind of see why maybe he was struggling to see the field at Alabama. Ton of talent. I just think he has some improvement to do. But here's what I'm seeing, guys. We got a little bit of depth now. We got depth at running back. We got depth at quarterback. We got depth at wide receiver. I mean, really the only place we probably don't have a good depth in is maybe linemen on the O-line. We got a lot of new kids on the O-line, people we're replacing. Now, we haven't talked about the tight ends. We had another drop to start the game, which didn't feel good. But Leonard looked good after that. He had a kind of crazy one-handed catch. And I didn't have a roster with me. I didn't see a lot of Seether. Did y'all see much of Brett Seether?
He had a couple of moments. It got a couple snaps. I don't think he really had any catches or receptions in that game to where you could make him go, oh, there's Seether.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that people miss is you may have been looking out for him, but it's like you said, Cdogg said it best. Sometimes it's hard to see numbers, especially when they're all wearing white and they're all wearing gold. It's kind of hard to pinpoint, oh, there's Seether right there. There's that one guy that we've been looking out for to come into Georgia Tech to make a big difference in that tight end room. But like you mentioned, the tight end room honestly looked fairly decent. Now, there's obviously, Brent Key said it best, there's obviously some improvement to be made in that room. But, I mean, for overall perspective of what the tight end has looked like at Georgia Tech in the past with Collins versus what it looks like with Key, they're involving a lot of the running backs and the tight ends in the pass game a lot more than what Collins was, especially with Leonard. You could tell it with Leonard. He had a lot more receptions just in that spring game than he probably did with Collins Tender in general.
Mm.
So, I mean, it was really good to see those tight ends get into the passing part of the offense. And Buster Faulkner's done an incredible job.
Yes.
From the 14 days he's been working with these guys to now. That's a big improvement from what I've seen just in the past 3 years of the program at Tech.
And Brent talked about that, kind of the chemistry. You don't really talk about that much either, the chemistry amongst coaches and how they work a game together. He talked about leading up to this week, they had some full scrimmages where it was the first time he got to see how Faulkner called plays, how he called a game, and how everyone kind of meshed together. I think Buster Faulkner, I think maybe in a year or two, people are going to be like, man, that was an amazing OC hire. I'm super high on Faulkner.
Yeah. I mean, I put a video, one of the last ones I did out was, I think that was the biggest addition to the offense. Look, we can talk about Haynes King. We can talk about quarterback, but you still have to have a guy that can draw plays up. And his ability, it sucks because every time I bring up or I want to reference something, we always have to talk about what happened in Athens because I don't have the film of what he did at Southern Miss. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But Benjamin mentioned getting running backs involved. I mean, look, they did a lot in Athens. Having running backs. They didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher. They would have a guy that had maybe 700 on the ground, but he finished 450 for the season through the air. As a tailback, and so. It's interesting you mentioned the chemistry as well, because that's something we just so often overlook. We just, we always have this mindset of where it's a numbers game, okay? So if I pick up this person right here and drop them, it'll be fine. There's a chemistry of the coaching staff, and I can tell you, there was definitely towards the end, and especially last year, chemistry concerns, with that staff, the previous regime. And so, and I tweeted about it. I think he's pushing all the right buttons. I guess this falls into the spring game, but to have the tech greats come and that dinner they did, I believe it was Friday night, y'all, that's something that I'll say this, when I saw it, I was like, man, I don't think I've seen that before. And then I was like, well, maybe Collins didn't put it out there, but as we know, they marketed everything. So the fact that, Key did that, and I think if that would have happened under the previous regime, we would have seen that on social media. I'm telling you, he's tapping into everything that I think he should be, and man, it's exciting to see them do that. But yeah, I think Faulkner's a great addition, and like I said earlier, there's the offensive creativity I think he brings, and specifically with tight ends. Yeah, it's easy for anyone to point out, what he did with the tight end group in his previous job, but you're doing it with a little less talent in the room here. So can you get creative? And Benjamin said, the 14 days he's been working with these guys. I guarantee you on film, he said, okay, what does this group bring to the table? But now he's getting to see it in person. And now he's getting to say, okay, how can this guy move? What's his strong suit? And I have faith. Dylan Leonard, he's a good player. He just, for some reason last year, it just kind of didn't, whether it was the mental side of things. We also remember, last year was a mental toll for the players as well. Yes. And so now the fresh slate to be able to say, okay, this is the guy. I'm working with a guy who's producing some really good tight ends. That's exciting for that group as well. And, did y'all see Jackson Long? I really didn't get to see if he's the USF transfer.
He dropped a wide open touchdown pass.
Yeah. So, it's part of those things. And that, I'll say this. I'll take a high road, a positive note with it. You'd rather get it out here in the month of April and it not happen in, Mercedes-Benz in September.
Well, I don't feel great about our depth at tight end. I mean,
I still think there's room to grow. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we got a ways to go for sure. I think Dylan Leonard's probably our best shot there, and hopefully, his hands get a little better because Jackson Long didn't really inspire confidence. Brett Seether we barely saw, and Luke Benson,
Luke Benson's Luke Benson.
Yeah.
Hey, but it'll feel a lot better if you get Kylan Fox on campus. That'd be a lot of fun.
We need him. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And to mention to your point, Cdogg, Benson didn't even play. He was dressed out, but he didn't even go into the game once. Did not even check in.
There were times this past year where Luke Benson literally was like a detriment to he came in, was dropping passes and missing blocks and literally just held the team back. So I'm glad that
I had a parent tell me during the UCF game, which we all know is a winnable game, for Georgia Tech. Looking back, probably glad they didn't win it because it ultimately led to, everything. But I had a parent tell me that, it was whether it was a missed block Cdogg or whether it was a drop pass or something, the wrong route or whatever. A parent made a comment and not realizing that Benson's parents were standing right in front of them in the stands. And I said, well, how'd you know there's parents? Me just thinking because I wasn't there. And this parent, not to be named, said, well, who else is wearing a Luke Benson jersey at UCF. So, it's one of those things where like that's probably the family of a player because I don't think they're selling those, on the public market.
Man.
No.
Oh man.
Wow, that's hilarious. Well, yeah, I did watch Jackson Long. He was out there a pretty good bit for a kid that's young. He looks like a kid that, there's a lot of improvement to be made, and I'm not saying he can't make it, and I'm in full support of him doing it. He just looked awkward and young out there. I mean, you got to realize how long has he been on campus? For a few months now?
Few months, and he played barely any snaps at USF. I mean, he didn't really play a lot at all.
No.
Yeah, the list of snaps he probably took, I think it was under 10, like 1,000% sure. Yeah. And the thing is like now he's getting meaningful reps at Georgia Tech because I think he was between him and Leonard were the go-to guys in the spring game at tight end that subbed in tremendously. I think Billy Ward was kind of like that third guy that was out there, but really those two guys were the 1 and 2 tight ends for sure.
Yeah. And I watched the post-game press with Key too, and I think this is Key at his best, like when he's doing like post-game press conferences, and because he talked about something that I talk about a lot. Well, I don't know that I talk about it a lot, but this is why we like to watch college football, because it's a team sport. If 10 guys grade out an A on a play and one grades out an F, it's an interception or a big play given up or whatever. And he talked about, look, if you're going to play like running back at Georgia Tech, you got to catch, you got to block, you got to know your assignments. You got to be able to do all that. You can't just do one thing really well and neglect all these other things. And that's really, for me, the biggest takeaway from the spring game is we looked fundamentally sound in a way that I don't think we have in a while. I watched the offensive linemen. They all looked cohesive. They knew their assignments. They worked well. We even made some checks, I saw. So that's all great stuff. I mean, I'm excited for this season, guys. Like, I'm super excited for this season coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line, and I think one of the coolest things was that first drive where Dante Smith scored. Yeah. You saw the cohesiveness, especially the whole offensive line went out and blocked to the left. The tight end came to the right to block the lone linebacker standing out there to do the check that he's supposed to do. But it gave Dante Smith to go right up the middle with a wide open gut. I mean, he didn't get touched till maybe the goal line, maybe the 1 yard line. So for him, just to see this offensive line, that's not going to be talked about a lot because I think that's not the focus point for a lot of people as a fan perspective. Like you really don't look at the offensive line, especially when you got a really good quarterback battle. You have some really exciting young receivers who are going to be athletic playmakers. And that's another thing that Keith mentioned in his presser as well, is he was saying, hey, like somebody asked him, I'm not sure who it was, but they were like, hey, like, who are you going to stick in the slot? And he's like, well, guess what? Like, we're not really cared about, like, who's going to play slot. We're going to stick the best receivers out there. And I think that's another thing that I like about Keith too. He doesn't care where somebody plays. He's like, if the best 4 receivers we got are out there on the field, I don't care where they play, because eventually somebody's going to have to play out wide. Somebody's going to have to play in the slot, and somebody's just going to have to suck it up. And if you really want to play, then you're just going to suck it up and move on. And that was one of the things that I really liked what he said.
I like that too, because he was mentioning the special teams too, and he was saying how the best players, he said, if you're good enough to start on offense, defense, you're good enough to play on special teams too. Exactly. And I think the special teams was something I was really looking forward to, because last year that held us back in a huge way, and Brent, Key was able to kind of put a Band-Aid on the kind of disastrous special teams that we had. But for a full offseason, for him to now be able to turn that around, and it the block punts and we weren't even able to return it last year. We weren't, we always had this horrible field position. The other team would always get great field position, and that's what held us back in a big way. So I'm looking forward to our special teams being sound again, because that, like you were saying, the fundamentals, that's like the fundamental of a good team, and you don't really pay much attention to it, but when you don't have it, you notice and you really miss it, and it holds you back. And one thing I noticed also was they had Malik Rutherford back to return punts. Now they didn't do the full return punt thing, but that was interesting that I noticed. So, and the moves that Malik Rutherford was doing on that touchdown, the reversal, that'd be cool.
Hey,
So,
can we talk about how?
Can you do that again?
Yeah, do your move. That was the movie hit. Can we talk about how dirty Haynes King did a poor defender because he went out to hit a block on when he reversed field, but you can't touch the quarterback.
Yes. Yeah.
So what are you supposed to do?
If the quarterback's blocking you.
Yeah, if the quarterback comes to
Too funny.
I would have laid
that
him
was one of
out. I'm
that was
doing
one
my
of the
job.
One of the most exciting parts of the game for sure was that touchdown play with that reversal. So be looking out for him to be returning punts. That's something I noticed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I like too, we were talking earlier, Trey Cooley, the running back transfer, plus over 100 plus all-purpose yards. I mean, that's the guy we were talking about earlier. When Ben was talking about Faulkner getting these backs, out in space. Running back was a position that's just been an interesting one for me over the past 2 seasons, really ever since the Gibbs left. It's been one of those things where where do they go? Do they have a bell cow back? A lot of teams don't have bell cows. They have a nice little rotation, but it never really felt last year that there were all 2 or 3 guys were contributing at the same time. We'd have one guy who had a great game. 2 guys. Remember the Pitt game? I can't remember. I can't remember.
Hassan Hall went off.
Hassan Hall, Hassan Hall went off that game. But if this offense gets like 2 guys that are just, essentially tag teaming. And Benjamin calls games as well, and you can tell like when an offense is flowing, even high school, college, NFL, and the defense's expression when the next guy comes on the field, like that's a deflating.
And he's got a full burst of energy too.
Exactly,
he's punch you right in the mouth.
So if Cooley can take that, and we see these other guys take a step up, look. Jamie Felix, Dalen Gordon, the guy that I think is going to be interesting. Evan Dickens is an impressive young man too. The freshman. So it's another fun group. Obviously can't forget about Dante Smith as well, but it's a fun group. But I just, overall, I think offensively, the weapons are getting there. And then, I liked what you said, just kind of round out my little spiel on WreckTalk, how you talked about, Christian Leary. You see the talent. Like, you see why he was so highly thought of. The hope is, can he get rid of, and I don't want to call it the yips, but if he can start catching the football, what this kid can do within his hands is seriously amongst the best of the country. And I don't think that's why he went to Alabama. So if he can get over that and make that leap in Atlanta, that's going to be a dynamic. It's, and we're already, I'm ready to play tomorrow. So that's, I'm ready for the game. So let's see it.
That was something I was thinking too. I was saying to WreckTalk with the running backs, because last year our running game could have been a lot better. I don't know. I guess I'm just used to it being our running game being like really exceptional at Tech. And so it's been a little bit mid for the past, since Jahmyr Gibbs and JP Mason left. And I would like to see, hopefully our offensive line improvement can open up some holes for these guys. And even Dante a couple years ago was averaging, he, was third string, but he was averaging like 15 yards a carry or something crazy when he would come in.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping our running backs can look. But yeah, I was liking when I was seeing that of Cooley too. So hopefully that get.
And I'll mention,
more production.
I'll follow up with that and just say I think one of the things that made it so successful in the spring game is credit our wide receivers for going out on the perimeter and blocking for these guys. There was a ton of times where they could have got a couple of 15 plus yards more on the run. And a lot of the times when they got out in space, the safety or even the corner from the other side of the field had made the tackle. So, there was a lot of great runs in that spring game that a lot of guys won't realize who made the tackle, and it was a safety or it was a corner. Like our leading tackler was a corner yesterday. That's something that a lot of people won't realize. But then again, it's like Keith said in the presser, we were playing a base set. Like we only had 4 plays for this defense. So you can say, oh, well, our corner is our best tackler going into the season. That's a big key to focus on. No, but he knows what he's got, and he knows, and he said that he's just making sure, hey, we don't give anybody a heads up before we go play Louisville and Mercedes-Benz. And that was a
Yeah.
smart move by Key and his staff.
So I've got two things. One with Christian Leary. So what? This is just my impression. When a guy has the speed of him, and we're really talking near world-class speed with Christian Leary, he kind of struggles like when he's in a curl route and he's put his guys on skates. I think when you have that kind of speed, you're kind of waiting on the ball to get there, and you want to get upfield. So you have this propensity to take your eyes off the ball and trying to get upfield and drop a pass. So I just think there's some bad habits he might have that if they can be corrected, the sky is the limit with him. The other thing we haven't talked about that I mentioned immediately when I was streaming this game was the throwing motion of Haynes King looks much improved to me. It looks far more natural. He still holds it high, but it's fluid and his release is much quicker. Like, it looks night and day to me from Texas A&M, which tells me for some reason Jimbo Fisher was coaching him to do that, which is why a lot of people in Texas are probably upset with Jimbo at the moment.
Chris Winkie, man. Chris Winkie. I mean, I guarantee you that's something that when he came, they knew they were going to get that commitment from him. They said, I mean, I guarantee you Brent went to Winkie and said, all right, go to the drawing board. Like what? I want you to look at this kid's film when they identified him as a target, and what can we fix with this, But I echo that, and then just kind of the last thing, and I'm going to pop out, but I appreciate you guys, letting me hop on. Last thing I'll say, about the Christian Leary thing, is a lot of that too, and Ben, you might see this at the high school level. A lot of the really talented kids, they get away with that, because they're so good. And so you can, sometimes, move a little quicker, and you might get away with it because the guy guarding you is not an SEC defensive back. So I think kids get away with that. And so it's just learning, like you said, and growing out and, I'm sure breaking down those bad habits. And this is something too, when the staff can't be with these players, I'm sure that, Haynes King, Zach Pyron, and these receivers are going to get work, on some backfield, on whatever this summer as they work. And that happens a lot of times in the college game. But just kind of wanted to end my thoughts there. I appreciate you guys for a couple things. One, let me hop on here, and two, continuing to grow this Georgia Tech community. That's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm telling you, I'll be repping some white navy gold down in Cajun country. But we're gonna be it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I might be able to make it to a game or two this year. So we'll see. We will see, though, how it works out.
Me and RecTalk are talking about going to Oxford.
Yeah.
So,
I'm definitely going to Oxford.
Not too far.
Yeah.
Not too far. Oh, you got to go. That's an experience. You got to go. So
And
I appreciate y'all, though. And thanks for having me on. And I hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your show.
See you later, Bryce. Thanks for coming. Yeah,
Right.
that was something, too. I think Winkie is not long for Georgia Tech because I think he's going to get some attention, especially if, he was already able to turn Jeff Sims around. Jeff Sims was pretty bad when Winkie, when we first hired Winkie. He was not living up to his potential. And last year for the games that Jeff Sims did play, he looked a lot improved, and he was running the offense well and everything developing under Winkie. So that was really good investment. And now if he's able to come around and turn Pyron around, especially get not one, but two, starting level quarterbacks and take Haynes King and bring out his potential, man, I think Chris Winkie's going to get hired away to some big program because he's really making a name for himself. And somebody even mentioned that in the comment section earlier. They were saying like, oh, if Buster Faulkner improves our offense, we're going to have to worry about him getting hired away. Well, yeah, him and Chris Winkie too. I think that's kind of why he did the co-OC thing. And I think he promoted Winkie to the co-OC to probably, incentivize him, not getting plucked off somewhere. But that is a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have is when other teams want your coaches. That means you're doing something right.
And one of the things that Bryce mentioned is I see it in high school all the time because I've even heard a coach, especially if you're a really good quarterback and they have an awful throwing motion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's literally what they'll tell a kid, like, hey, you got a whacked up throwing motion, but guess what? I mean, it works for us, and that's all we care for. And then when they get to the college level and you see that, like, unusual throwing motion from these quarterbacks, you're like, that's not normal from any any quarterback you would ever see. And so normally they'll try to fix it, and then it doesn't end up working for a quarterback, and that's why you see a lot of great high school quarterbacks just kind of fall off sometimes. It's just because they may be very athletic, and it works well on the high school level that they played in, but it doesn't work in a Division I college team, Division II college team. It may work in NAIA and Division III, but in those top two levels, it's so hard to compete with, especially with a lot of other guys competing in that level as well.
Well, they talked about Haynes King having such a high football IQ and everything, up there being the right way with Haynes King. So, if anybody would probably be able to work through that and relearn, how to throw and improve that motion, then it'd probably be him. So, I mean, look out. To me, it seems like everybody close to the program, around the program that is familiar with the situation, seems to think that Pyron has hands down just got the job. But I don't know. I wonder if it's heated up at all after Haynes King's really good performance this past spring game.
Well, and I don't know. Yeah, that was my impression too. I'll say this to Benjamin's point: don't overlook how monumental of a task that is to change a quarterback's throwing motion. I've talked about it before. It's like changing someone's golf swing, where very small, incremental changes can lead to disastrous results when you're talking about a quarterback's throwing motion. So I would have expected to see him struggle a little bit with that, but not only did he not struggle, so he played well and his motion looked better. To me, that speaks to the incredible coach that Chris Winkie is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this, because you mentioned that the comments said Zach Pyron is the guy. I mean, from a standpoint of you watched his first couple drives, he came out there and played very, very well from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it took Haynes King a little bit of time to get better throughout the game. And so I think that's why that immediate reaction to people, that knee-jerk reaction is, oh, Zach Pyron is the guy. And like I said, I don't think this is from my standpoint, they're not going to make a decision in the spring. They're not going to make a decision in the summer. And they're going to make it week 1 against Louisville and say, all right, who's our best guy that's going to help us win? It doesn't matter of, hey, this kid's talented. Hey, he's more athletic. That won't matter. Who's going to help us win ball games is who's going to be the guy. And I think week 1 they're going to see and say, okay, well, if so-and-so doesn't, let's say it's Zach, let's say it's Haynes King, let's say they don't play well. All right, well, we're going to get this guy to go out there, Brody Rhodes, who played decent, especially towards the end. Now, granted, that's a long shot, but no offense to Brody. I mean, he did play well, and even Coach Keith saw that, even though they were all wearing the same color jerseys. He was saying, hey, I thought he went out there and performed well. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, you're going to see the best guy get thrown out there, and I think Tech's going to rally around that guy. And I think what's even better is, you didn't see this with Jeff Sims at all. There wasn't really a quarterback that challenged Jeff Sims while he was the quarterback at Georgia Tech. And so for somebody to challenge a young guy like Zach Pyron and a guy like Haynes King, who's considered a veteran but is only like a sophomore, that to me shows, hey, this is a true quarterback battle between these guys. And it's something that has not been on the flats in a very, very long time. And I think that's why a lot of people are so excited about it. And it's the biggest conversation kind of going into the season, because it hasn't been on the flats in quite some time now. And so that's why I think a lot of people are saying, hey, let's pick one or the other here. But really and realistically, it's going to be the guy who's going to help Georgia Tech win. And you've seen Zach Pyron. He's helped Georgia Tech win. And I think that's why I think a lot of people also love him as well, because we saw him last year win games for Georgia Tech right before he got injured. So I think that's why a lot of people were going to say, okay, it's Zach Pyron. He's already helped us win games. He's going to continue to do so. Yeah. So, and like I said, I have no favorite. I think both guys are great kids. They're going to do really well in the program, and I'm excited to see who wins it going into week 1. I think that will be the biggest key thing to watch against Louisville.
It would be nice if, maybe we had an easy game to start off with.
Yeah, if
but
I could rearrange our schedule, I
yeah,
would early on.
yeah, it is exciting going to Louisville. I honestly think whichever way we go, and yeah, I've been saying too, like we're not going to find out until snap one of the Louisville game, but I honestly think we're going to be in good hands, whichever one it is,
Yeah.
for sure. So
Well, one thing we haven't talked about, Benjamin, that you would know way better than Cdogg or I is the recruits on campus. Well, I know we had some recruits coming in for the spring game.
20. Yeah, over 20.
Yeah, speak to that. What do you know about that?
I do know one interesting one, and this is going to be a story that comes out later in the week for us. So, spoiler alert:
Okay.
24/7 will have Aaron Fillo, who just recently decommitted from Minnesota, who's the quarterback over at Prince Avenue Christian down there in Athens. Actually spent Friday training with Buster Faulkner's son. So I don't know if there's a hint or nudge. I don't know. We're gonna explore that in our interview later this week, and then our story that will come out later in the week. So it'll be really interesting to see why he decommitted from Minnesota so quickly. I mean, he literally. I don't think he was committed for a month, and I think that was a very interesting thing to see from a lot of people from the outside perspective. And so Aaron Fillo, I think it will be very interesting to see if Tech is trying to go after him and what he's trying to do over at Tech, and is Buster Faulkner's son maybe convincing him to come to Georgia Tech? I don't know. We'll find out.
So you said he's
later on in the week.
You say he's a 24 quarterback?
Yeah, he's 24 quarterback.
Huh. That's interesting because we have, Hayes King and Pyron, and then we've got Jakari Williams coming in next year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll probably see some transfers out in that case, but because that's gonna be a pretty stacked room right there.
Well, and my thing is Georgia Tech is going because the media is very high on Williams right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're having him as the 10th ranked quarterback in that class, and so I think that's going to be something to watch out for. It's if other people try to lure him away from Georgia Tech, especially with how high that the national media has him. 4-star. I mean, the kid's got a lot of talent, very athletic, and I think he would be a really good fit for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's just going to have to do everything fight and claw all the way until they get his national letter of intent to be signed and dotted on that line to make sure. But then again, I mean, nowadays you can back out of a letter of intent if you don't like your NIL deal. So we'll figure it out.
Well, this is what we have to do. We have to go out and show them something this year.
That's right.
We have to perform on the field because this was the thing with Collins. Like he was able to get the commits and everything, but you come out and go 3-9 every year. They're not going to believe in what you're saying. You have to prove to them something. So I think, and Jeff Collins going into the 2021 season, which was another disaster year, he had a top 25 class and they decommitted after, we go 3-9, lose 100-0 to Notre Dame and Georgia, and they all decommit, and that was a result of that. So I think that Brent Key actually, he's shown us something so far, but to really take this recruiting class off, I think he's we're gonna have to build upon that, which I think was another advantage of hiring Brent Key is the continuity. Right, because we didn't have too many transfers out. We had enough transfers out to where we can, survive off of that, and we really should be able to build off of last year and really surprise and impress some people, and hopefully keep those commitments and keep building off of that.
Now, we had a 4-star defensive lineman. I saw post a little video on Twitter saying he'd be back. I had to look at what his name was. Let's see. Does that ring a bell, Benjamin?
Yeah, I think I saw the video. I talked to so many recruits, I couldn't tell you the name, honestly.
Okay.
So
that's fair. But, yeah, no, I mean, look, there's some buzz around the program we haven't seen in a decade or longer, especially on the recruiting front. I mean, that, we're having 5-stars visit campus.
Yeah.
Dude, that hasn't happened really ever that we've had.
I think the one I saw the stat earlier when the 5-star quarterback came and visited campus, probably about a month ago. I think that was the first 5-star out of state athlete that Georgia Tech has seen walk through campus. I'm pretty sure. The last 5-star to do it was an in-state 5-star back in '07. So I
Wow.
mean, it's been quite some time that Georgia Tech has seen a 5-star, especially out of state athlete, come in and visit the program. So it's showing you the right things that Brent Key and the staff is doing, and I think it also shows, especially offensive wise, what Buster Faulkner has connections to, that he lured away from his time at Georgia. And
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, we don't want to talk about Georgia." Da 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 da. But you got to give him credit. The dude still has connections at a lot of different high schools, and still is recruiting very, very well for Georgia Tech. And I think that's why Brent Key hired him for one, his recruiting stance, but just what you've seen in the spring game too, with his playmaking, just coming out there and saying, "Hey, let's be creative with our play calls." And I think that's one of the reasons why you're going to see that offense improve as well. And I think the other thing is that he's coaching tight ends too. So I don't expect the tight ends to just kind of, we talked about them for a little bit, and how they struggled a little bit, but knowing how well he is, and especially how creative he is with the offense, don't be shocked if he gets a little bit too creative with this tight end room as well.
Yeah.
Well, we know how they freaking love to run their tight ends there at Georgia. So, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, I just don't know if we have the personnel yet. Last year, the Dylan Leonard thing, he was just not very clutch in key moments. So, hopefully we can get that. Like you said earlier, the Kylan Fox. We need some proof of concept at the tight end position.
I wouldn't
At
be shocked
Georgia
if
Tech.
now this would be interesting if we did see this, and I don't know if they will. But if they did something with like what Georgia did last year, obviously their best receiving tight end was Brock Bowers, but their best blocking guy was 1,000% Darnell Washington. So what do? You line Darnell Washington up at the true tight end spot, and then have a guy like Brock Bowers go in the slot. Well, with Georgia Tech, Dylan Leonard 1,000% is probably the best blocking tight end Georgia Tech has on their roster. And then you may see a guy like Long who may just line up in the slot. Who knows? I mean, he'll get creative, and I'm not worried about that tight end room, especially
Yeah,
knowing it's in his hands.
that's where the Blackburn kills us too. Man, I was so
Yeah.
looking forward to Blackburn.
Yep.
He would, but he seemed optimistic with the Blackburn situation that he was gonna, get through this and be able to reach his potential here. So I don't know. We'll have
Yeah,
to see.
that was a heartbreaker for sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were excited to have him for a full healthy season,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, that's just not the way it. And to what my indication was, it was his other knee. It's not like he re-injured the same knee he injured last year. It was
Yeah.
his other one. So I mean, when you have two ACL blows in a matter of about less than 2 years, it's really hard for an athlete mentally to come back and say, "Yeah, can I still play at a competitive level?" But it seems like the signs for him are looking really good. So hopefully he can come back strong and at least give the Jackets at least one or maybe two good seasons with
Mhm.
him over in that wide receiver position.
Yeah. Well, cool. Trying to think of like some other things that I noticed.
I noticed something,
Okay.
bit of an elephant in the room. Do we want to talk about the freaking attendance?
So I think who's the other? Some reporter said it was about 10,000.
10K.
I didn't
Yeah,
feel
Kelly.
like it was that many though.
Yeah, it was bad. Like,
Yeah, and look, like I think that's gonna happen when you've had the seasons we've had in the past. I don't know. I mean, I could say that can only get better as you get. I mean, the thing is, a lot of things hinge on this season's success. Our recruiting, the direction of our program, probably even NIL and raising money for that. Attendance and everything is going to hinge on really turning a corner. And and it's not necessarily even just the amount of wins. It is about that, but even in your losses, how did you look in those losses? Were you getting blown out? Did you look completely lost? We need to see something big this season.
I guess people just need to see a little more than a coaching change to get excited again. But I guess you wouldn't know that unless you've been paying close attention, because we did have a losing season again last year. Yeah. And so maybe if you're a bit more of a casual fan, you wouldn't know. But I don't know. It seems like it's going to be tough for us to just materialize. 40,000 freaking fans to fill up the stadium, because that is another tough thing that's been killing us, is getting took over by other teams.
Oh yeah. Now I do think that that will change with Key. If we ever see 95% red in a stadium again, I will probably assault someone near me. I won't do that. Like, I would rather move senior day to a different day. Like, I think Collins should apologize to those kids for setting them up for that personally. But I'm not here necessarily to bash Collins. I guess we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what the attendance is at the Benz against Louisville.
Is it full capacity again, or have they announced that they're shutting the top off?
Yeah.
I don't think they've announced it, but they didn't even have full capacity when Georgia played Oregon to open up last year. I don't think.
I thought they did. I thought the Georgia-Oregon game was full capacity, and then the Georgia Tech-Clemson game was they shut the top off.
They did. Yeah, they shut the top off for sure. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I would think they do that again. Ben, do you have a what do you think? What do you if I made you bet right now, what is our record going to be next year?
Well, I think the positive signs that you've seen in the spring game point towards at least you make a bowl game. And I think with Key, what you saw towards the end of last year, and that was the thing, like, you saw a couple of games where they felt like in those instances, like, they were down and out of it, like Collins would have just laid down and it would have been over. But, like, Key kept fighting. I thought even in the Georgia game, like, we got up early and then we got down, but we still kept fighting in that game, even though the score may have not looked like that from an outside perspective. I can't tell you if Collins scored 14 points on UGA last year or during his tenure at Georgia Tech. If he did, it was only once. And so I think to see Brent Key have the fight and willingness to win and make his guys be tough. I mean, he talks about that every press conference. He wants to make sure his guys are tough mentally, physically, in every aspect, and then make sure they're physically tough within the classroom too. So, I mean, he's pointing towards the right things. I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia Tech made a bowl game this year, for sure. With the way the schedule is, it's not as hard as Collins had it, and I think and like I said, I mean, you wish you could play a team like Western Carolina to start the year just to kind of get the quarterback kind of going and get a rhythm going before you get to a team like Louisville. But Louisville is very similar to Tech. They're in a new coaching change. Yeah. New offense is going to be there for Louisville. New defense is going to be there for Louisville. It's going to look a lot different for the Cardinals when they walk into Atlanta. So, I mean, these are two teams who really don't know what to expect walking into Mercedes-Benz, unless you're a true fan and you're within the program every single day. So, I think it will be really interesting to see what Georgia Tech does. But a bowl game is probably 1,000% the goal for Georgia Tech this year. And then potentially, depending on how the Coastal kind of folds itself, which really won't matter. No more Coastal. So, it really won't matter. You probably want to finish towards the top, midway through the pack in the ACC. Because I think the schedule that Tech really plays favors them a little bit. Now, Clemson's a whole different story. Now, I did watch a little bit of the Clemson game, spring game as well, and I wasn't really shocked. I mean, their score was like 20-14, very low scoring game. Klubnik, I think, had like 4 interceptions. Like it was kind of a weird spring game for Clemson. It looked like it, but attendance was really good. I mean, they were committed to being there and being supportive. I think they packed out their lower bowl pretty much in Death Valley, except on the hill right there. If you've ever been, that student section that normally is on the hill wasn't there during the spring game. But overall, their spring game didn't look as good. I didn't get to catch anybody else in the ACC, but I know that at least Georgia Tech's going to go and compete against a lot of these ACC teams, and it gives them at least a 50-50 shot now instead of knowing, hey, Clemson's on our schedule, we're probably going to get whooped. Like, and at least like going in, this is what's Tech standard is. You got a 50-50 shot walking in to a lot of these tougher opponents now, and that's something every Tech fan should be hopeful for and really excited for now, is that you don't have to look on your schedule and go, oh, that's a definite loss.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we can be competitive now. I think it would be nice if we could open up with a team like, I don't know, just random one.
Western Carolina?
No, UT Martin, and then I could maybe catch UAB after that and ball. So here's what I know about our schedule. It looks tougher than Georgia's. And the thing is that I really love about Brent Key is, damn it, he hates Georgia. I mean,
yes, that is right.
Hates Georgia.
Yes. It's a man after my heart.
In fact,
it's so funny. I know if you went back and watched the broadcast from the other day of the spring game, they were talking about the tight end that came in from Georgia. And it was like, we brought him from the dark side over to our team. And like he mentioned the dark side as Georgia. And so I think it's just the way and the level of hate he has towards UGA. I think that's something that a lot of Tech fans really love about Brent Key, because he's very fired up about the Tech traditions, because he's a Tech man. I mean, he understands Tech more than anybody and any other coach that could come in. Collins would probably say he understands Tech a lot more, but I mean, you see how that ended up. So,
I believe he thinks that.
Yeah. So he may know about the city of Atlanta a lot better, but Tech, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
he definitely knew a lot more about Waffle House. So I can guarantee you that.
Well, yeah, I love the way that he said that we have an opponent in this state we will work to dominate 365 days a year. I love that. So
yeah. What meant Cdogg? It was you telling me that he was asked like what's you're most proud of like in your career, and he's like beating Georgia 3 times in a row.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what's even better is that you have an athletic director who's the exact same way. And a lot of people don't notice this, but Jay Batt, right before the spring game kind of kicked off, if you've ever been in Bobby Dodd Stadium and you've had to sit in the nosebleeds, basically kind of like where you sit, what's in your background right now. If you look probably just a little bit to the right, there's a Georgia's own credit union sign that always stated something for Georgia. And
GD.
I remember me and my dad. I remember my dad. Majority of my family is a Georgia fan, so unfortunately, I've lived in a crucial household. But I think one of the things is that when he would go to games with me, we'd sit up there sometimes with a couple of friends of ours, and he saw that sign, and he would just laugh like that would overhang Bobby Dodd Stadium. And when Jay Batt put that tweet out, I immediately sent it to my dad, and I said, "You can't laugh no more." And so. Jay Batt, thank you so much for taking my childhood terror away from me. Whenever I walk into Bobby Dodd, for sure. So
it was in the intro. It was in the intro. The first picture showed that. I did that purposefully. So yeah, thank you for the Georgia Credit Union deal he hit.
Mm-hmm. I really do think it's a new era under Brent Key. You know, we get that cleaned up. That situation, and I think the days of us sucking and missing bowls are over. I don't think the way I look at it is this: like, he was able to get to 5 wins under everything that went wrong last year, taking over in the middle of the season, taking over a disastrous situation. He was able to get to a bowl there. Then I can only imagine what he could do with a full off season. Because, I mean, we lost a lot of games we shouldn't last year, like the friggin' UCF game and the, Virginia game and Miami game, while we had our quarterbacks go down. And now he's got a competition because he had to deal with that in the first year. and now you got a competition, so you don't have to. If one of them goes down, then you're covered. And so I think he's kind of preparing for that situation this year, and so I'm really liking it. I think we could surprise some people. I really do. If last year we were an 8-4 caliber team.
Yeah.
I mean, we just were. I mean, even with and that was with our special teams issues and everything. We lost some games that we shouldn't have. I mean, there's no reason that I would say our floor this year is 6-6 probably. I just it would be hard for me to imagine a situation where we go anything less than 6-6, and this is what Georgia Tech is and should be. Is we have one of the longest bowl streaks in the country, up until I think it was the 2015 season. But we're just a solid. We always recruit well enough to where we shouldn't have to worry about having disastrous seasons like this, like under Jeff Collins. But he just had no idea what he was doing, and I just think those days are over. I don't think that we're going to have to worry about being bowl eligible anymore. I think that we're going to be moving on to greener pastures. And the spring game that we just watched really inspired some confidence in me.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you why it's a new era. I'll tell you exactly why it's a new era. Because gone are the days of patting a kid on the butt and telling him good job for showing up. All right. This is an era of accountability and doing things the Georgia Tech way. We're going to fight till we can't fight no more. We're going to lay down, bleed a while, get up, and do it again. That's the Georgia Tech way, all right? And that's what Brent Key's about.
I'll say this, and I got to log off. But first, thanks, guys, for having me. Cdogg, it's nice to meet you, man.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you guys during the season. But one thing, if Georgia Tech needs to make one more hire, bring that man Derek Moore back home.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Bring him back. Take him away from South Carolina. He doesn't need to be a Gamecock.
They had their fun with him. Look,
exactly. They've had their social media fun with him. They've blasted him all over social media, but now it's time to bring him back home to the flats where he belongs. So hopefully we can get that done. But guys, thanks for letting me join on. I really appreciate it, and wish you nothing but the best as we work towards the summer and hopefully for a really good fall season. And always go Jackets.
Absolutely, man. Good to meet you, man.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'll tell you what, Cdogg, can we start a GoFundMe page for his sign-on bonus?
Oh, man. What I wouldn't give. You can take my debit card, my credit card, my EBT. You can freaking take it all. Please get that man Derek Moore back. Hey, we didn't come here to play around.
No.
Okay? Now, we're done. South Carolina's had their fun with them, but we're done screwing around, and we're ready to get Demo back where he belongs. Like
so, they get Demo. They get Demo, and then suspiciously they beat Tennessee and Clemson.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a coincidence. Hey, I'm gonna bring in my man. He's been waiting a long time. I don't even know how he got the StreamYard link, but he did. My man, homeless Jeff Collins, who's been suspiciously absent for a while. How are you, sir?
Good. So, well, first of all, I got the StreamYard link because it was pasted in the description. So.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot.
You might want to take that out.
That's how I got in too.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot, man. Don't ever listen to what I say.
So I want to talk about the spring game because sadly I could not be there. But I did watch a little bit of the replays this morning, and I did see some promising stuff from the quarterbacks. Some really good stuff from the quarterbacks. I noticed for the portion that I watched, the run game was a little bit slow, but I mean, what's y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I said, everybody seems to be a little bit happy with the run game, but I still see a lot of room for improvement. I think, like I was saying, because I'm just used to us having such a good run game that it's weird and kind of disappointing to see it be as mid as it kind of has been, So I really would love, not that we, obviously be nice, but not that we need a Jahmyr Gibbs back, but we need JP Mason back. You know what I mean? not back, but you know what I'm talking about. That caliber of player, because we haven't had that. Dante hasn't lived up to that. He didn't last year, and the transfers didn't really do a great job and everything last year. It was just mid. It was mid. So, that's kind of something that I'm looking for, and hopefully, like Ben was saying earlier about the O line, hopefully they can do a good job and open up some holes for them, and we can get our running game back, because that's something I've really missed actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I loved more than seeing Jameer Gibbs make a lot with a terrible O line. He would just
Hmm.
somehow find a way to get upfield with the world's
Hmm.
worst offensive line. It was crazy. But I mean, he's moved on to bigger and better things, and he's probably going to go in the first round of the draft now. I don't think he would have been. I think he probably would have fell to third or fourth had he stayed to with Georgia Tech for the next
Yeah.
few years. I don't know, but I do know a couple things I heard from the spring game commentary about, they were talking about new stuff, filling the dead space a little bit with, like, talking about interviews and questions and stuff. They did say that they interviewed Brent Key, and he said that he brought Jeep Wade on the staff specifically because he needed an entirely new philosophy with the offensive line,
Yeah.
somebody that didn't share his philosophy with the offensive line. And that's good. I mean, that's pretty self-aware considering the offensive line has been one of our worst parts of our entire team.
And and I like that. That's the very first thing Brent Key did too. It was the
Yeah.
very first thing he did was hire Jeep Wade and start recruiting linemen. That was the first thing he shored up, and he did it through recruiting and not through the portal, and he did it the right way. And it might not be the best this year. You got to work with what you got from now on, but I really like that he's doing it the right way. He recognizes, like you said, that it hasn't been what it needed to be, and yes, so I think I'm very happy with how he's handled that situation.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't give Brent Key enough credit because if you listen to like what he's actually saying, his philosophy is so different from Collins. You have to question, is it Collins' philosophy that is why our team was so bad? I think or why our offensive line was so bad. It wasn't that Brent Key's not a good coach. It's that our players weren't disciplined.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
you can't just turn that around inside of a week. I mean, he basically did, but I mean, as far as where you need to be, that takes some time.
Yeah, it did, and we're looking at how much improved we were last year, and that was on a dime in the middle of the damn season. Like,
yeah,
I'm just imagining what he could do with a full off season to get his philosophy and get that situation turned around. And he's running practice a lot different. He's wanting more pads. Who was it that I read somewhere that he's wants more? He's doing pads as much as possible because that's not something that they did a lot, and he doesn't want the players to. He wants the players to expect to be in pads because they used to not do them a lot, and they would get irritated or complain or whatever it is that when they had to do pads because they'd see the pads in their locker, know that it was a padded practice, and they'd be like, and
well,
so
yeah.
he's changing that, and it's
Yeah.
a great thing.
When you've done a certain thing for so long and been
Mhm.
so disciplined that when you have to sort of, dig your heels in, it's like an inconvenience.
Mhm.
And I think that Brent Key building new habits is just so good for our football team because I mean, I think we've had like the talent for a long time. Like I think I told WreckTalk this, but I remember that 2020 roster should have been a 9-win team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the 2021 should have been
Or the
2021
was it the COVID
for
year?
sure.
I
Yeah,
think it was
COVID.
the COVID year we had, or the year after that, where no, it was
Yes,
the
where we
COVID. It
had
was the
Jameer
COVID year.
Gibbs, we had Jeff Sims. COVID year, we had like Jalen Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
And
was thinking COVID year because we had Wanye Thomas, Jalen
yep,
Camp,
Charlie Thomas.
Charlie
Yeah,
Thomas. Um, who's the other guy? Number 4. Why am I drawing a blank? I used to know this roster like the back of my
yeah.
hand.
You move. I
Um,
kind of forget about them too, especially if they don't go to the draft. I kind
Yeah.
of forget about them.
The guy that was like
You had
along
Ace
with
come in that
like
year, didn't
yeah,
you? Or
Ace
was that the year
Healy.
after?
That was
I
the year
think that might.
after.
Yeah, that was 21. Yeah.
Um, what's his name? The guy that was getting a lot of tackles with Ely. No, that was Charlie Thomas. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of somebody else. Number
Yeah.
44. Oh, what's his name? He was another linebacker.
Mm,
Oh, what is it?
No. I know who you're talking about. I know exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he was. I
He
know
just
exactly who.
graduated
I
this
know
year.
exactly who you're talking about.
He
But
was
yeah.
on the 2022 roster.
Yeah, he was here last year. He didn't graduate yet. Oh wait, no, he did. He did. He graduated 2021, I think. He's in the indoor football league now.
Mm.
Um,
But yeah,
We
the
all found it.
2020 and 2021, and then we had Kyrie McGowan in 21. So freaking good.
oh
So
yeah, he's
freaking
another
good.
one.
There's
He
no
was good.
excuse. There's
There was
no
n-
excuse for us to miss a bowl in 21. 2020, I mean, I get it. You know, you're year 2 coming off of the triple option, everything. So I get it. And it was also Jeff Sims' first year and everything. But 21, there was no excuses. None.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Let's
Quez
see.
Jackson.
Oh, Quez. I
Here's the
remember
2020.
Quez.
Yeah, Quez. He's the one.
Yeah.
He's the one. Okay, so who here's all the players we had. We had Charlie Thomas, Wanye Thomas, Jalen Camp. This is the 2020 roster. Amarion Brown, Tariq Carpenter, Trey Swilling. Who else? David Curry.
Oh,
Yeah.
David Curry. Yeah.
Yep.
He was so good. Let's
yeah.
see who else. Antonius Clayton was pretty decent, I think.
Well, he was a 5-star, but he had issues off the field, so he never, he was transferred in from Florida, but yeah, he had issues, so he
Okay.
never wound up playing that much.
Jeff Sims. I think Ezard was pretty decent at wide
Yeah.
receiver. I mean, he was all right. Adonicus Sanders, Jordan Yates.
We had Jemias Griffin too, he's going
Jemias
off for
Griffin.
the Beavers right now, isn't he?
Oh, the running back room. The running
Yeah.
back room
Oh
was
yeah,
ridiculous that
JP,
year.
Jemias,
In 2020.
Dante, and
Yeah.
and Jameer, freaking
Mhm.
insane.
That running back room should have gotten like 3,000 yards rushing or
Yeah.
something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. Malachi Carter. This is all the 2020 roster. Miles Sims is pretty good. PJ Harris. I mean, he's never really he's never really had a breakout. I think Collins was pretty high on that guy. PJ Harris.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Zamari Walton, Jameer Gibbs, Lamiles Brooks. These Jemias Griffin. There's so many good players. Josh Blancato. He was pretty. He was all right.
I'm gonna miss on that note too. I'm gonna miss, we're having to replace a lot on defense. Our this year our defense is going to be, it's gonna have a big shoes to fill on defense this year because we're losing Charlie Thomas, freaking ACLE, Keon White. We're gonna have a tough time. That's why our offense needs to take a step up. To kind of balance out that. And, our offense was so bad, but our defense was winning us games last year. Every close game, they freaking showed up and showed out. And so, anybody peep the linebacker play?
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that. So I was focused on the offense, but watching back on ESPN, Braylon Oliver looks like a grown man. He is huge. And he was making a lot of tackles and like with force, like where we'd stand up the guy and then he'd just come in and knock him flat over. So I thought Braylon looked good. I didn't notice a lot of Andre White. I don't even know if he was out there. I didn't notice him at all. But
yeah, Chase Lane, was he there?
No, he won't be there. I think he's finishing up his major at
gotcha.
Texas A&M right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Another player that I saw on that roster, I've already closed the tab. I was going through. I mean, we were in the 20s. After all those players, we were in the numbers of the 20s, and it goes all the way like to 90s. And I saw one that reminded me of how bad Collins' player development truly was. Jordan Dominic should have been all ACC.
Oh yeah.
That guy should have been one of the best. I mean, if he had stayed with us, what he should have been was one of the best edge rushers in the entire country, and he should have been all ACC
Mhm.
without a doubt. I mean,
Well, yeah, Marco Coleman has his coach, but
Yeah,
hopefully we can. I don't know. We gotta. I know. I often look back and think and shake my fists at the air at what could have been, because we were really talented, and last
Yeah.
year we were. I was looking at it, and we didn't have one single player from the 2019 class that was starting. I think we had like one or two left, but they weren't even starting. So it just goes to show you
that's tough.
just how pitiful. I mean, the player development and roster management and everything else was under
They
Collins.
all
Just an
transferred.
absolute travesty.
I mean,
They
they probably all
transferred,
transferred.
or they were bust, or they just I mean,
Well,
it
they
just
not necessarily they were bust, they just couldn't get developed,
couldn't
and
get
it's
about.
too
Yeah,
late.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
too
for
late for
sure.
Brent Key to do
yeah.
anything with
That
them.
was only one or two of them. The rest had like transferred. Yeah, so we got absolutely gutted after the 21 year. So
There is one kid that Collins recruited that I think if he's coached really well, he could be super, super good on the defensive side of the ball. Rodney Shelley, is
Mhm.
it? He was the one guy that kind of locked up Brock Bowers in the UGA game. I think it was.
Okay.
I think it was him. I can't remember. There was another guy, C. Rod Bryant. No, he was the guy that like speared a guy with his helmet. I was not happy about that.
Well,
But
so I'm gonna end the show at 9:30.
okay.
But
man, that went by quick.
it did go by quick. I'm actually gonna go over and talk to BVD. If y'all don't know who BVD is, Big Vol Daddy, got to meet him at the Slobs, good dude. But so give us your closing thoughts, Homeless Jeff, on the spring game. Are you excited? Or is there anything you're concerned with that you saw?
I did see that the whole thing about Haynes King's throwing motion. I don't really see what the big issue is.
Well,
I
not from the
mean,
spring game. It looked much better
yeah.
in the spring game. Are you talking about you don't even see what the issue was with it before?
Well, I think well, they probably fixed it a little bit. I think
Yeah.
he's if I had to guess, it's a very close battle between him and Pyron, but I think King is going to win the starting job. And I mentioned this, I think, in a Discord, whether it was yours or the Swarm Talk Discord. I think that it's possible we could do a sort of JJ McCarthy situation with the Michigan QBs where we start Pyron the first game or start King the first game and start Pyron the second game, something
Well,
like
that
that.
was the issue with our schedule this year because at Michigan last year, what they did, they had two like doo-doo teams
Oh,
that they
that's
were
right.
playing doo-doo nothing teams. We get Louisville right
They
off the
had
bat.
like
And there's no time to screw around with Louisville.
UConn and
No.
Colorado State or something like
Yeah,
that.
they had some like Hawaii or something that they just could afford to toss whoever out at quarterback. But Louisville, is a complete toss-up game. Jeff Brom is no joke as a coach. They are not to
No.
be taken lightly,
If
not at all. So
if we do switch quarterbacks in game 2, that will be because we either lost to Louisville or we struggled mightily and kind of lucked out in a win. So I don't want to see a quarterback. I think that's the only way you'd see
And
it.
under this key regime last year, they were slow to make any moves. I mean, they sat there and let Gibson go 7 straight 3-and-outs
Yeah.
before, and did not take him out of the Virginia game.
Yeah.
So they are slow to make. Don't expect some kind of knee-jerk reaction from this coaching staff, especially the guys that they've been working on throughout the entire offseason. I have a feeling that they're going to be very slow. And the only thing that would get that to change would be injury.
All I know is that I would rather start Brody Rhodes than Zach Gibson.
That
Yeah.
might
That might
not
be a fair statement.
Yeah.
Well, Homeless Jeff, I appreciate you coming on. I hope you find a job. It is suspicious to me that Jeff
Yeah,
Collins
I'm
is
still
not.
homeless.
Yeah, you've been sniffing the underwear of every coach within 500 miles of Atlanta. So
Including UGA.
yeah, you crawled right under there.
Narduzzi went and shake Narduzzi's hand.
Yeah,
That's so bad.
Did Narduzzi teach you how to shake hands properly? Like, you don't rip it away like you're starting a chainsaw. Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Always a pleasure to have you.
All right.
Hey,
Jeff.
you brought up BVD earlier. Speaking of BVD,
Yeah.
Daddy and the Dog is returning on Friday nights, so y'all be sure to tune into that. I do a show with BVD every Friday night, so if you want to see Cdogg on the BVD, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you're like, why the hell should I subscribe to Tennessee Man? Do it to see Cdogg and your boy BVD every Friday night. And we don't admittedly talk about football a lot. We mostly talk about, I don't know, for movies or rock and roll. We talk a lot about rock and roll. One time though, it's not a boring show by any means. One time I jumped in the river on stream.
He did,
and we had to MacGyver like a hook to like pull us like to pull the chair up, and it was just a wild stream. So we had to get up to no good over there.
When is that going to start, and what days and time?
We did it this past week. Because we stopped doing that show for a while because BVD had big health issues. He actually had to get his leg cut off, and he had to get it amputated. And so he was having health issues for a while, so we kind of stopped doing the show. But he, reached back out to me and wanted to bring it back. So we did it the other week, and it was great. And then, this past week we didn't because he got strep throat. But hopefully he'll be all right. And we'll be doing it every Friday night. And then also the ACC show. If you're not watching the ACC show, I don't know what's wrong with you. On the Pigskin Pete channel. And me and WreckTalk go on that show weekly and argue with Georgia fans and argue with North Carolina fans, and we freaking give them the what for. And if you want to hear us just put some fools in the dirt,
I mean, Cdogg, this is a quote from Cdogg to an idiot, absolute moron North Carolina fan. You can never unlose to Jeff Collins. He went on a 10-minute tirade where you broke your microphone and started. It was kind of like in The Dark Knight when the Joker is like doing his tirade on camera. Like, it was beautiful, man. Like, y'all, the point being, y'all don't want to miss out on that. ACC show is the truth, and check out Friday night show with him and BVD. Now, BVD did say whenever we're on stream together, it's going to be called The Nerd and the Turd.
The Nerd and the Turd. That is funny. I just put both Pigskin Pete and Big Vol Daddy's links in the chat there. So if y'all aren't subscribed to that, you're missing out.
Yeah, definitely sub them up. I mean, they put out, but both of those guys put out absolutely great content. I'm not just saying that because I'm friends with the guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess closing thoughts for me on the spring game is, dang it, I'm excited, man.
Man, me too, man. Yeah.
I mean,
I am so freaking ready for my Yellow Jackets. And guess what is the best part about this? The best part about this is that if you're not a Georgia Tech fan and you're not paying attention, you don't know how good Georgia Tech is about to be. Now, we might not exactly light the world on fire. We're going to catch some people off guard. Unless things just go horribly wrong this year, we are going to catch some people off guards, and it's possible we have a really good year. I mean, people are talking about bowl eligibility and whatnot. Our team is capable of much more than that. I mean, even WreckTalk, during his interview with Zach Pyron straight up said their goal is 8 wins. 8 wins.
Yeah, I think he said minimum, didn't he? He's like, we're getting at least 8
minimum,
wins.
He says. And that sounds crazy to some people, but our team last year was capable of 8 wins.
Yeah.
It's the special teams and the quarterback injuries and stuff like that that's getting fixed over this offseason that is it's going to surprise some people. I'm telling you guys. It is going to surprise a lot of people. Everybody's going to be surprised but us.
That's right.
Us Georgia Tech fans and the Cdogg and WreckTalk viewers, we're going to freaking fill you in on how good the Jackets are about to be. And it is a very exciting time. The days of sucking and missing bowls and having our stadium took over, those days are over. I'm telling you right now. So let yourself become excited.
This is my hope. We're picked last in the ACC. I hope everyone's laughing at us. I hope everyone thinks me and Cdogg are idiots. Now, I don't just hope. I know a lot of people think that, and that's fine. But you know what? They're going to have egg on their face next year, and they're going to bow, and they're going to kiss the ring
That's
of
right.
Cdogg and WreckTalk.
And that's funny that you'd say that, too, because me and WreckTalk have a bunch of bets out, too. I have about $200 out, and he has about $100 out with people on the ACC show about if we're going to make a bowl next year or not.
Yeah.
And so, and so, you know, we're riding high. We're freaking taking those suckers for all they're worth. And, you know, they want to come on and besmirch and belittle Georgia Tech and think that we're just some pushover team and we're going to suck forever. We're not freaking Vanderbilt. We're not Rutgers. We're freaking Georgia Tech. We have a proud football history. And whether people like it or not, whether they think that we're capable of it or not, we're coming.
We're coming.
And if you don't know now, you're gonna know.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Cdogg, I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited for sure. And check it out next week. It'll be the WreckTalk live show. If you didn't know, I have a new Twitter because some jackass hacked my Twitter. Now I'm at @rec_talk. I don't get to be the OG WreckTalk anymore. If you wanna donate, there's a PayPal link in the description. I have CashApp as well. We'd like to do more cool things like interview Zach Pyron and Clayton Powell-Lee. If you haven't seen those interviews, you definitely need to go see them. And with that, that's our show. And I think I'll play that intro video out again. Whoever made that did a really good job. We'll see you guys next week.
Go Jackets.
Tired of being what you want me to be, feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. Don't know what you're expecting of me, put under the pressure of walking in your shoes.
Caught in the undertow, just caught in the undertow.
Every step that I take is another mistake to you.
Caught in the undertow, just caught in the undertow.
I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. Become so tired, so much more aware. I'm becoming this. All I want to do is be more like me and be less like you. I've become so Can't you see that you're smothering me, holding too tightly, afraid
It has
to
truly been an
lose
honor
control, 'cause everything
to know each and every one of you by name. And the privilege that I have is that I know you by name. I know your heart. I know what makes you cry. I know what makes you happy. And that is an incredible responsibility. And it is a privilege to serve you. It is. I thank God every day for the opportunity to get in my car and drive down to the Georgia Institute of Technology. Not because of brick and mortar, but because of flesh and blood. And I want you to know something. The Georgia Tech football team is about flesh and blood. It's about a heartbeat that beats strong. It's about a passion that is unyielding. And I want you men to know today is your hour. It is your time. It is your moment. Go take it. Go do what you think prepared to do. In the words of my middle school coach on here. Alright? You can't fight no more. You can't fight no more. You're gonna lie down and bleed a while. You're gonna get up, fight some more. Hope you said we can repeat after me what I said. We're gonna fight. You can't fight no more. You can't fight no more. Gonna lie down. Bleed a while. Gonna get up. Fight some more.
Fight some more.